everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video hasn't been planned at all. I'm just sitting in my studio feeling a bit blue, a little bit emotional because my lovely neighbor just across the road, she is moving today, and we have built such a great friendship and we had so many lovely moments. Although they're only moving to the next village, so not that far, it's that, you know, attachment that you build with someone that you really like, and we had loads of great moments. Anyway, so to get my spirit up a little bit, or at least attempting to, I decided to do a little fun swatching video, and so I prepared a few things. I find swatching always really relaxing, and sometimes if I feel a bit blue or something is on my mind or whatever else it could be, swatching is something that really helps me to get out of that mood. So hence why this is what we're doing today. So what I have done is I put a selection together of colors that are similar. But for my own curiosity, I want to see how similar they are. So, from my ultimate palette, I have taken 4 colors out, except for the middle color, because this is very unique. It's unique to this palette. It's also unique in general. There is no such thing. It's a mix that I have created. So the strawberry velvet is a granulating and pigment separating color, and therefore that stays in the tin. But the other 4 colors, so we have the chartreuse, we have the green gold deep, cobalt teal, and quinacridone gold deep. I'll try to compare to the colors that I think are within the same family, but I want to see how different they are, and I think they would be quite useful for you as well. And in general, the vibe is going to be chilled today because that's what I need, and I'm sure some of you as well. So I will have to try and somehow make this paper flat. There we go, that's better. I'm going to use a small brush, a Princeton Neptune round 4. It's great for smaller areas. So the other thing I have done here is stamping these swatching areas. I don't know if you can see them. I'll bring it a bit closer up. Always in a nude ink. It's just my thing. And that's this element from the color palette, which is still available on my Etsy, Alyona Creates, along with the watercolor set ultimate palette. They're handmade, vegan, artist grade watercolors. Okay, I have a little bit of the paint squeezed out here, so I'm going to use it up. So we'll start with chartreuse, and I have already some of it here. I'll just wake it up a bit. I think I'll do that to all of these colors, just because they have been sitting in the dish for a while. And there we go. Okay, so chartreuse. As you can see, chartreuse I have very few colors of, and that's because it's actually quite difficult to find. It's a color that's quite new, I'd say, to watercolor brands. Not many brands have it. So that's why I decided to mix up and create my own. And as with all of the colors in the ultimate palette, it's because I really like that specific tone of them. So the next color that I have here is Mid-Yellow Leaf Green. So immediately you'll see it's a little bit more yellow than that. And I think it's a bit more opaque. If I'm not mistaken, it has a white in here, does it? No, it doesn't. PY3 and PJ7, which is, I think, yeah, it's the same pigment base as my watercolor. So not necessarily when you have 2 colors that might have the same name, they might have even the same pigments, that they will be the same colors. And I think this is why I'm doing this video today, just to showcase that. Bright yellow green. Obviously, my colors are more convenience colors because they're not single pigments. Even my cobalt teal, I tweaked to be a color that I love. And so I don't need to mix it up every time, if that makes sense. Next one we have Sennelier bright yellow green. And that one is PY, doesn't say anything after the PY, and PG7. I would assume it's a PY3. So it's similar to mine, just a touch more yellow, I'd say. And also, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Sennelier a honey-based watercolor? I need to double check. I thought it was honey-based. Mine are vegan. The next color we have is by Gallo, and it's called Fig Green. And so this one would be the most yellow out of them. So mine would be then on the opposite spectrum out of the four, and it would be the zestiest. I'll give you a close-up once they're all nicely dried anyway. So now let's move on to the gold green deep. I'll use another tray here. Oh, hold on, I've got it squeezed out, almost forgot. I wanted luminosity in my gold green, and I wanted depth, so it's a deep. But what's interesting is that you can create a lovely deep tone with it if you wanted to, but when you use more water and less pigment, you can get this lovely shine through, the lovely luminosity. So if I just lift it a bit at the bottom to reveal that, it's got a lovely color to it. Next one we've got Core Green Gold. Now Core is this one here. So my green gold, in fact I have these cards so I can tell you. My green gold is a PY 129, PG7 and PY3. The Core Green Gold is a PY129. So it's a single pigment. And it has a little bit more yellow than mine. So mine has maybe a touch more green tone in there. I'll try to build it up here just to give you that difference as well. There we go. Next one is M. Graham Aza Green. So this one definitely is honey based, never ever dries, always stays very, very liquid. And most artists don't enjoy this one in a portable palette. So if they like to paint plein air, in plein air, then that usually doesn't work with the M. Graham. So this one, let's see, pigment base is PY129. So you see, completely different. Very transparent. I'd say it's even slightly more yellow than the green gold. Okay, next one, Sennelier brown green. It's beautiful. So very similar to the Aza green by M. Graham. It's more yellow. Next one is Roman Schmalz Deep Green Gold. Now for that I need to pull out my palette, which is on this one. There is a whole video, actually maybe a little series, of how I put this palette together. It's simply a pencil tin, and here we have deep green gold. I just need to find it. I think it's this one right here. So I find that the M. Graham and the Sennelier had this very strong transparency, and although it's good, it's great, but if you want to build up the color quickly, the Roman Schmal and my watercolor would allow you to do that. So if you like sort of that heavier texture, or you like to play with texture where you go from really transparent light colors to a more saturated, a deeper tone, then I find so far you can do it more. So as of now, before we're doing the last color, which is the Moss Green by Michael Harding, it's a very interesting color. It's a PY150 PB29 PR209, so also a convenience color. So far we have more yellow tones, and mine is slightly greener out of all of them. So Michael Harding is very interesting and not really your typical gold green deep, but I thought I'll include it. It's tone wise quite similar in terms of the green to mine, but it's slightly different as well. It's more leaning towards olive green, and it has an interesting pigment separation. But tone-wise, I hope you can see they are quite similar. But let's wait until they dry and then I can show you. I'm going to lift like I did with mine as well, just to show the difference. Next color we're going to look at is the cobalt teal. So I didn't mention in this video, but most of my colors are granulating. Apart from chartreuse, every other color has lovely granulation in there. Not too heavy, but so these two are not as heavy granulating, and it depends what paper you use. Sometimes you will see more granulation on one type of a paper than others, but you can see hopefully the textures. And these two are the most granulating, but they are also pigment separating, so they're super fun in mixes. And I will show you the difference with this color. So hopefully, I'm not sure if you can pick up in this lighting, but with my teal, I have designed it to separate into blues and greens, which is quite unique. So let's look at the turquoises now. So I have a selection here. One of them is probably too blue to be in the selection, but again, that's not a big group of colors that I have. So let's just go with it. So let's start with cobalt teal. Which is my cobalt teal. As an artist, I have learned throughout the years that It is lovely to have convenience colors. And I have been mixing these colors for many years until I decided to create my own palette that has all these mixes in there, and I no longer need to mix them. I can just squeeze them out of the tube and hey presto. So that's the idea behind my watercolors. So next one is Daniel Smith Cobalt Teal Blue. So in effect, I'll just pop them back in here. That's this one. Okay, Cobalt Teal Blue. So the key here is the teal. So turquoises can have different, slightly different tones to them. So some of them can be a little bit, you know, blue. Some of them can be a bit more green. But for me, teal is when it has this perfect touch of green borderline blue, where you can't really tell. And of course, if the pigments then separate into blues and greens, it's a lovely effect to paint water. And I designed them to be artist grade, which means artists can use them knowing that they're Lightfast. Okay, let's lift a little bit here. So right side by side you can see slightly greener. Winsor Newton Cobalt Turquoise Light. Turquoise pigments are expensive, and whenever I squeeze them out, I always make sure I'll leave it. If I haven't used them up, then I always keep them for next time, because why waste something that's quite expensive to produce and to make. So here we're starting to go away from green and we're going closer to our blue. Now, Core Cobalt Teal. Quite similar to Winsor Newton, but just a touch greener, barely visible. Not even sure if it will show up on the camera, but in reality. But here some magic is happening. All right, Roman Schmal Cobalt Teal, which the big boy palette is coming in for. I'm just going to clean this out just in case it's contaminated. So we have a true swatch. Precision, precision. This is also beautiful. I mean, there is no cobalt turquoise that's not beautiful. Every single tone and shade of it is just stunning. I love its granulating properties. I love the magic it does in all mixes. Anything you mix with cobalt teal or cobalt turquoise or cobalt blue is going to be a dream. Now some of you might be sitting there and thinking, why on earth do you need almost identical cobalts? They're not exactly identical, but I can understand what you're thinking. Now I need Schmincke. Where is Schmincke? Here it is. Okay, so that's our last cobalt. Next color is Quinacridone Gold Deep. I have some of it in my palette here, so I'm going to use what I already have. It ranges from the Quinacridone Gold Deeps to Siennas. It's sort of, you know, kind of hard to say where it stops being quinacridone gold deep and where it starts being burnt sienna, but I did my best trying to pick out colors that I thought within that sort of league. And again, I designed a quinacridone gold deep the way I like it, and you'll see some of the comparisons. Beautifully granulating color, has a lovely luminosity to it as well. And then I'll just add a bit of highlight here. Like so. Now let's move on to the next one. We've got Rembrandt quinacridone gold. Oh no, quinacridone orange, sorry. So I've got a half pan here. It's a bit more redder, but I thought I'll still include it. Sennelier Chinese orange. So if it gets a bit loud, I'm sorry about that. The previous guys, I didn't even hear them leave. The vans were so quiet, the moving company. So this is probably should not be in here. This color is quite sort of too within the orange. I mean, it's going too far. But I thought, let me include it anyway. For some reason I remembered it to be more of a burnt sienna tone, but anyhow, might be useful for some of you. Next one, Daniel Smith quinacridone deep gold. Now that should be a right color tone. This is very beautiful color. It's got a lovely yellow undertone to it. And then we have core quinacridone gold. So this one is similar to Daniel Smith, but a little bit more orange. It's got that lovely glow as well. This is quite staining, doesn't lift very well. So let me recap you. So my one is PR101 with PY150. Then we have Rembrandt. I'm not sure what the pigment was in that one. Sennelier. I can check that quickly. That's a PY150, PR209 and PBR23. And then we have Daniel Smith. So this one is PY150 and PR48. And then we have Core, P048 and PY150, so the same as Daniel Smith. And mine I wanted to create more granulation, so hence why I went with the PR101 in there. Okay, next one we have Quinacridone Rust, and this is Graham again, escaping. This one seems to be a bit deep, it's more kind of towards a brown, more so than a orange. Okay, and then we have last one, which is Schmincke Gold Brown. Again, I'm not entirely sure if this color should be here, but I'll give it a go. Yeah, I think it's the right tone. If you can't see it, just move it. It's a bit more lighter. I mean, these are too orange. These are the kind of quinacridone golds that you would expect. One brand calls it deep, and the other one, although it's very similar, is just a quinacridone gold. And mine basically has the granulation and a bit of that texture from the PR101 in there. And this one here, probably all together, well, it's similar to quinacridone gold, but of course it's not quinacridone gold. Okay, and last one we're going to do is Roman Schmal, and that one is called actually Burnt Sienna Monte Amiata. And I thought it'd be good to show it to you because it's actually quite similar in terms of tone and granulation, so it fits quite nicely. Probably more, I mean, this one is kind of borderline burnt sienna and quinacridone gold. It's not as orange as a burnt sienna would be. So in there we have got, let's have a look. We've got a PBR7, which is an earth pigment. And you can see side by side, it's more of a burnt sienna than mine. Mine has more of that yellow lift, which you would associate with a quinacridone gold. And also it has the granulating property of a burnt sienna, if that makes sense. All right, so here are all the colors. Let's first look at the chartreuse and the gold green colors. So here you can see the moss green has some really unique look to it, and they're not the same in any way, but tone wise they are the greenest, and hopefully that gives you a good indication of what they look like. And then moving on to the cobalt teals and the quinacridone gold deeps. Hopefully now you can see the granulation really well, and you can see there's some areas of blues and greens that divide beautifully. And then we have the bluest color right here. These are very similar. This one is kind of in between that one and this one, and then this color is the greenest, but it is still a turquoise, it is still a teal. It's not a green, it's a green toned blue. So then we have the quinacridone deep, and when you look through these colors, they're a little bit too red, too orange. These are your typical quinacridone golds, and then these are too brown and a little bit sort of slightly different to what we are looking for. And then we have the burnt sienna Monte Amiata, which is probably the most similar to my color, but it's a burnt sienna and it's got more red tone in there. Mine has more yellow, so like I said before, it's as if I took a quinacridone gold deep that is a typical color, with adding some of the granulation and tone of the burnt sienna, and created my own kind of quinacridone gold deep version. So I hope you found it useful to see exactly side by side what these colors look like and how different mine are from others. All colors are beautiful. It's hard to pick your favorites, but for me as an artist and watercolor lover, over the years I have learned what my favorite tones of those colors are, and like I said, I just created a little set to help myself with the convenience colors and have loads of fun swatching and mixing and painting. And this was one of the last videos that I've done, creating botanical greens and how some colors are very bright but still can be used in modern botanical art by adding a bit of a pop of color. So that is it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.